Hello, crypto bros, and I have some news that just might make you reconsider which coins you want to actually invest in. First of all, got a report on Athena, and it's bullish, folks. It's bullish. If you look at Athena, if you look at their stable coin, it's dominating. Just completely dominating. Obviously, not quite as good as USDT or USDC in terms of total net flows, but look at it. It is on the heels of USDC. And it is bigger than PayPal USD, USDS, which is MakerDAO, USDI, USDG, USDTB, and RLUSD. Tether's got 19.6 billion of inflows. USDC has 12.3 billion of inflows. USDE, however, is right there with $9 billion worth of inflows. It's roughly 3/4 caught up with USDC. Now, obviously, the supply isn't there, but this is really good because the next biggest one is PYUSD with only 1.4 billion, and there's a big jump between PYUSD and USDE, and there's a much smaller jump between USDE and USDC. So with Athena stablecoin growing like that, you really might want to consider buying some Athena. The unlocked market cap is only 3.95 billion. Still, plenty of multipliers there. 4 or 5x would not be unheard of in a bull run, even 10x maybe if it does really well. We know that stablecoins drive a ton of price growth, and Athena's stablecoin is growing very quickly. I mean, you expect Tether and USDC to be number 1 and 2, but I did not actually expect USDE's inflows to be so huge. I expected to be more in line with PYUSD, but it's obviously on another tier from PYUSD, USDS, and so basically I would look at the tiers of net inflows like this. The top tier is going to be tier 1's USDT, USDC, and USDE. Yes, Athena is enough to be in that top tier with $9 billion of inflows. Tether is roughly twice the amount, but the difference between Tether and USDC is less than the difference between USDC. I mean, the difference between Tether and USDC is more than the difference between USDC and Athena by a huge amount. And tier 2 would actually be PYUSD and USDS, and then tier 3 would be USDI, USDG, USTDB, and at the bottom, RLUSD. Now, there are obviously other stable coins not within the top 3 tiers, but those are all insignificant. In fact, I would say anything below tier 1 is pretty insignificant right now. But Athena is in that tier 1 based on net inflows. They probably do need to mint more, but the minting of stable coins is going to be absolutely insane. And I definitely think that Athena warrants a big look. The symbol for that is ENA. So the other thing is we have defeated Elizabeth Warren. So it looks like Massachusetts, which I believe is Warren's home state, is going to create a Bitcoin reserve. And she is a member of Congress, so she can't vote in Massachusetts stuff. But maybe she's trying to influence Massachusetts politicians, but it looks like she's about to lose. So Massachusetts Peter Durant pushes S.1967 to spark surplus funds in state Bitcoin reserve as a hedge, echoing President Trump's new federal strategic Bitcoin reserve. Massachusetts lawmakers are set to hold a hearing on October 7th to discuss the creation of a state-backed strategic Bitcoin reserve, SBR, a move that would mark a turning point in U.S. crypto policy. I still think this is extremely significant because it is Elizabeth Warren's home state. And of course, if they adopt a Bitcoin reserve, I don't think she can be so against Bitcoin because her state will actually have their toes in the water. The proposal seeks to authorize the state to acquire and hold Bitcoin as a part of its reserves, framing the cryptocurrency as both a hedge against inflation and a tool for diversifying assets. If advanced, Massachusetts would become the first Democratic-led deep blue state to seriously consider building a Bitcoin reserve, indicating how global digital assets are shifting from fringe speculation to mainstream financial strategy. The effort also reflects growing interest nationwide. At the federal level, the Bitcoin Act of 2025, backed by Senator Cynthia Lummis and others, calls for the establishment of a national Bitcoin reserve. Massachusetts' hearing comes as other states move forward with similar measures. Texas and Utah have already passed legislation allowing for Bitcoin reserves, while Wyoming introduced the State Funds Investment in Bitcoin Act earlier this year. So, This bill is sponsored by Representative Jason Wasserberger, authorizes up to 3% of certain state funds to be invested in Bitcoin with strict security requirements for custody. So it is only a Bitcoin reserve, but most of the reserves are Bitcoin solo reserves. So I don't actually think that this is actually going to matter all that much. It's going to be like, anything else. Massachusetts by itself is not going to move the needle, but it's just another state, and Elizabeth Warren's home state nonetheless, to actually get on the Bitcoin bandwagon. So more or less, sooner or later, Elizabeth Warren herself is going to be forced, at least on the Bitcoin bandwagon, maybe not the altcoin bandwagon, but at least the Bitcoin bandwagon. The Massachusetts bill will be reserved in a legislature dominated by Democrats, with 132 seats in the House and 35 in the Senate, compared to 25 and 5 for the Republicans. While the political imbalance may shape the debate, the very fact that such a measure has reached the committee stage shows Bitcoin's growing legitimacy in a state-level financial planning. I think other states are going to pressure the states that don't have Bitcoin reserves to get in on the Bitcoin game, because the ones that aren't in on the Bitcoin game inevitably will be left behind. Supporters argue that Bitcoin reserve could act as a digital gold, offering protection against inflation, and of course against other unseen things in the country. Even Warren herself has to see that, especially with Donald Trump in office, there's a lot of chaos out there. And if other countries lose faith in the United States, the US dollar might go at least temporarily down, and having Bitcoin as a strategic hold could actually be a good idea. Obviously, there's volatility and regulatory uncertainty, but regulatory uncertainty you can just kind of like program around. And volatility, yes, there's volatility, but I think if you just focus on Bitcoin and some of the bigger coins, I don't think volatility is going to be that much of a problem. So Massachusetts, Warren's home state, is looking forward to adopting a Bitcoin reserve, and that is a big win for the crypto bros against evil crypto arch nemesis Elizabeth Warren. The third thing is, if you're looking for coins or like money transfer coins, you might want to look again, because Swift is actually building their own, and no, they're not using XRP Ledger or XLM. They're going to develop a blockchain-based ledger for 24/7 cross-border payments, and it's with Ethereum developer Consensus. Consensus, obviously, is Joseph Lubin. So Swift partnering with Consensus to build a 24/7 money transfer kind of like protocol thing on blockchain. So that's going to take a lot of the air out of a lot of these money transfer coins. Swift obviously is essentially used for pretty much all bank transfers right now, or the majority of bank transfers right now. And there have been complaints about obviously performance with the protocol, speed, and things like that. Well, they're going to actually address that by building the cross-border thing. It's going to be 24/7, so you don't really have to wait 9 to 5. So Swift has partnered with blockchain software company Consensus to develop a new blockchain-based ledger for real-time 24/7 cross-border payments, announced on September 29th at the CBOS conference. The initiative also includes more than 30 global financial institutions. And these, I think, aren't just pilot tests. These are basically going to hop on right away. So the initial prototype, Consensus, a leading software firm in the Ethereum ecosystem, is developing the conceptual prototype for a new ledger. Over 30 financial institutions are collaborating on the project, including major banks such as JP Morgan Chase, HSBC, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Deutsche Bank, BNP Paribas, and Santander. Purpose of the ledger: 24/7 payments. The shared ledger is designed to enable always-on real-time cross-border payments. It will facilitate transactions using various forms of regulated tokenized value, such as stablecoins. The system will use smart contracts to automatically record, validate, and sequence transactions, while also enforcing rules. Interoperability. A core feature is interoperability with existing financial systems and other emerging blockchain networks. And of course, this is where the Linea thing comes in, and that's where the trial on Linea actually comes in. And Linea is also a layer 2 network developed by Consensus. So that's where the Linea thing actually comes in. But after the Linea pilot, they're going to take it steps further. This partnership reflects Swift's strategic evolution to stay competitive amid digital asset and blockchain innovation. The traditional Swift network, which relies on legacy rails and intermediaries, has faced criticism for being slow and costly. The new initiative directly addresses these issues by leveraging blockchain technology. Now, you're saying Ethereum is actually slow, but if they use it on layer 2, it will be maybe a couple of minutes, even a couple of seconds for money transfers. And, the difference in a couple of seconds for money transfer and 1 second for money transfer really is not relevant to the users. So obviously, strategic implications. The collaboration is a major step in bridging the gap between traditional finance and the emerging digital asset space, and enables SWIFT to provide its members with reliable and compliant on-chain solution for digital payments while maintaining its existing messaging infrastructure. So for XRP, XLM, Telcoin, and others, this is not a good step because Swift is the 900-pound gorilla in the room. And now that it's adopting blockchain using consensus in Ethereum, I think this will actually be a private blockchain. It's going to be able to match you in speed and efficiency. So I think, and plus there's 30 massive financial institutions actually supporting this. So like it's going to get a lot of adoption right away, and it'll probably become the standard. In conjunction with that, a Qatar bank has tapped JP Morgan's blockchain for faster US dollar payments. It's a treasurer's dream, said QNB Kamal Morris, highlighting how the bank's shift to JP Morgan's Connects blockchain enables a near instant 24/7 payments. This actually might be an extension of the SWIFT thing. I'm not sure. So Qatar National Bank Group, QNB, one of the Middle East's largest banks, has adopted JP Morgan's blockchain platform, Kinexus, to process corporate payments in Qatar, according to a Monday Bloomberg report. The switch marks a departure from the constraints of traditional banking infrastructure, where cross-border payments are limited to weekdays and can take days to complete. In a Bloomberg interview, Kamal Morris, the executive vice president of transactional banking at QNB, described the development as a treasurer's dream, pointing to the 24/7 service window with a blockchain. We can guarantee payments in as fast as 2 minutes, which is very fast because even in these blockchain payments, they have to have a little bit of time for the extensive checks to actually come through. But if you can get your payments in 2 minutes, I don't think too many people will actually be complaining. Right now, it takes several hours, even a day. I've done SWIFT transfers internationally to Russia. They usually take about 12, 24 hours. I know a lot of people have been reporting several days, but I've done multiple transfers over the years, and this was 10, 15 years ago. It did not take that long. The fees were pretty bad, but hopefully this will be less expensive, although I doubt it because these banks like expensive transactions. That's how they make money. So basically, this is going to happen under permissioned blockchain, and it's not going to be permissionless. But with a big bank, you kind of expect that. They're not going to want you to use a permissionless blockchain. They want to have control over everything. So, two big pieces of news. The Qatar bank, the Middle East stuff, it looks like they're using JP Morgan's blockchain for faster US dollar payments, maybe within JPM itself. And of course, Swift is tapping Ethereum layer 2. So that might be good news for Ethereum because that will result in a lot of transactions. But I still don't think that's going to boost Ethereum price because it's all going to be on layer 2, and layer 2 does not really pay Ethereum fees. So for Ethereum investors, I don't think it really has an impact on you. I don't think it's bad, and I think it could actually get more FOMO going, which is good for you, but it really won't push up your price physically. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you, and have a nice day.